Hi everyone, how's it going? Okay, so just quick brief introduction. My name's Zach. I'm an Australian-based shamanic practitioner, Buddhist Nagpa, and I guess what you'd call a Western Paqo. So a carrier of sort of the Andean medicine tradition, but I'm not a Paqo as such because I'm not native to the region. So I call myself a Western Paqo to kind of just break that up a little bit. Just because I feel like, because I'm not Indigenous, I'd like to put the Western in there. So I wanted to put together a free video because I will be moving deeper into teachings on the Andean lineage around things like the Despacho ceremonies, rituals, working with the Misha or Mesa, energy practices and things like that, and even deeper teachings. So I wanted to put together a video that goes through all of the, I guess, energy dynamics and cosmology and a few other little bits and pieces about the Andean ways. So I'm going to try to not go too deep, but still give an in-depth understanding of these dynamics and the tradition and or how the tradition's been taught to me, and what the kind of foundational concepts are around energy, cosmology, all of that sort of thing before I move on to less theory kind of teachings and more practical teachings. So to begin with is just first the Pogpo, which is just our own personal energy bubble. Most traditions have this in some form, and the Andeans just call it the Pogpo, which is just our own personal energy bubble. Now, I'm going to move on to the principal energy dynamics of the Andes. First is Anye. Anye, as you know, it might be considered sort of the natural law of Calce Pacha and Pachamama. It's translated as I can never wrap my tongue around this one. Reciprocity. So basically the idea of what you put out to the world is going to come back to you. And this can either be giving back Sami or Hucha, and I'll get into those deeper. So it's the center of our will. In the tradition, there's no specific word for will. Munai, again, I'm going to get deeper into Munai, but Munai actually means will and love together. There's no difference. So Munai is connecting the two energies, will and love. So Anye is foundational Quechua and Aymara concept of mutualism and balance. Guides the daily life in Andean communities, often summarized by the phrase, "Today is for you, tomorrow for me." Core principles, interconnectedness. So it's based around the understanding that everything in the world is connected and that no being exists in isolation. This includes relationship between humans, nature, so Pachamama, Mother Earth, and the spirit world. Mutual support. It emphasizes the importance of helping others with the expectation that the favor will be returned either immediately or in the future. And this mutual aid fosters strong community bonds. So again, sort of what you're putting out is going to come back to you. Balance and harmony. So living in Anye means living in a continuous dialogue and sacred balance of giving and receiving. And the only commandment within many traditional communities, when we're talking Kero, Andean, other Andean traditions, Anye is considered the single most important commandment that governs all aspects of existence. So it's really what you're putting out is what's going to come back to you. And this can be Same or Hucha, and I'll get into this. So Anye in practice, private reciprocity, when the community member helps another with a task, then that person is expected to repay the favour at some point. Communal work, so, working on large community projects and things like that. Relationship with nature, so this extends into the environment. Offerings and care given to Pachamama and, and working with nature and staying in balance with nature. And then holistic exchange, so the value of that, what you're putting out is not calculated in monetary terms, but rather as genuine, heartfelt exchange of energy and support. And, this can include physical labour, things like wisdom, so teaching, acts of kindness, just for some examples. And then quickly, you've sort of versed the Western world. While the concept involves an exchange, it differs from transactional in individual Western way, and is often done selflessly and wholeheartedly, with a foundational trust that the balance of the universe will ensure that one receives help when needed. And it's about fostering a deep web of kinship with other people. So it's really what you're putting out is going to come back, and a really strong community focus of connectedness. Now I'm going to move on to Sami. Sami in Quechua is sort of positive, subtle energy. Translates as good fortune, success, bliss, things like happiness. It's a very high frequency energy that is experienced when in harmony with the universe and can be cultivated by giving positive energy to others. This is completely separate to the Sami people. Just going to put that in there. So the Quechua meaning of Sami, positive energy, it's subtle, luminous energy connected to happiness, joy, bliss. Success and fortune, it's also associated with good luck, fortune and success, which is, getting a promotion or having a perfect trip. Just in general, things going our way and a smooth ride. It's also a little bit about harmony and believed to, to be generated by being in balance, in harmony with the universe. Kindness also, some sources sort of translate kindness or goodness, often in the concept. I'm going to leave that out actually, that doesn't really matter. So it's the opposite of Hucha, which I'll get into. So it's fast moving, it's healing, but it's not overwhelming. It's just smooth. It's high frequency, but it's not like it's overwhelming. It's just a nice, smooth energy. Just a peaceful sort of good fortune and energy that just feels really nice in the body. And whereas Hucha, we're going to get into in Quechua, is So the Quechua word for Hucha is heavy, dense, or chaotic energy. That's what it means. So this can be created by human relationships, stress, emotional stuff, resistance. It's not inherent, it's not always negative, but rather represents the energy that's sort of stuck or out of balance. So there are ways and practices that we use in the Andean traditions to reduce hucha and move it up so that it becomes sami. So it's heavy at its core, and it refers to a feeling, like a physical feeling of heavy or dense, human created through human relationships, especially when the anya is lost or out of balance. So when you're not giving things out, and things aren't coming back to you, and things are a bit out of whack with your anya and sami, this can cause hucha. Resistance, like I said, resistance can cause this, whether often stress and fear-based type stuff, and resistance to those emotions and feelings. But it's not evil. It's not like it's not an evil energy. It's just heavy, stuck energy that needs to be moved and sped up. So I'm not going to go into how we release hucha, because that's quite an advanced practice. But in essence, hucha is sami, still a form of sami. It's just slower, denser, heavier form. So sami and hucha, they're not opposites. They're just two energies that kind of exist together, and one is heavy, one is light. So they're relative to each other. And nature, well, no, nature is not only comprised of sami. Nature also has hucha in it. Because when we look at life, I suppose the natural cycle of life, during which life force energy declines or slows until it ceases, what we call death, and that cycle is just constant, life, death. And we can bring this into nature, or we can bring it into the human. So, when we're born, or when things are growing, that's a lot of sami. It's a lot of light energy. That's a lot of growth. As things begin to die, whether that be things in nature or a human or an animal, then hucha starts to move in, because the sami starts to slow down as we get ready for the dying process, or as things in nature wilt, lose flowers, say in autumn lose the leaves, things like that. That's also kind of a form of hucha. So it's not always bad as such, it's just a heavy energy, and that does kind of come in as we're dying, because the sami starts to move out of the body. So again, I love this topic because it's really interesting that hucha is not exactly a bad thing. It's just seen as something that might need to get moved and sped up a bit, but it is actually a form of sami, and sami and hucha are super closely related and kind of move together. It's just an interesting little balance there. So now I'm going to move on to Munai, Yache, and Yankai. So the Andean sacred traditions identify three primary human powers, and that is Munai, feelings, Yankai, action, and Yache, knowledge. So in Quechua, Yache means knowledge, wisdom, or to know. So it can refer to skill, experience, science. So it's basically just the knowledge aspect of the human. So the learning, the absorbing information. And it's interesting because although Yache is often at the bottom of the hierarchy of these three powers, when we start learning the Andean traditions, at least under the lineages I have with Joan Wilcox, and Juan and Ivan, it's actually the first thing that is addressed, the knowledge. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here today, is that real sort of dense academic knowledge, philosophy, understanding of all of these things, and that's where we start. So even though it's at the bottom most of the time, this is where we start our training. So yeah, the training begins with just this basic understanding of the cosmovision, energy dynamics, core dynamics of Anye, reciprocity, and then there's Yankai, which is our ability to take action. So this is to participate in the world, both purpose and playfulness. Motivates us to leave the world in a better place, no matter how limited our reach is. So in Quechua, Yankai means to work. And as I said, it's one of the three core principles in Quechua philosophy: Munai, love, will; Yankai, to work; Yachai, know, knowledge. So it was related to labour, effort, and action. To work, to labour. Culturally, it represents the principle of, say, the Kiro farmers and those sorts of things, the people that work the land. And it can also be the Paqos, the people that work the spiritual path. So it's doing the work, it's doing the practice, it's putting these things into action. Whether this be working with your hands or doing spiritual practice and things like that, that's what it refers to. So Munai is, in my opinion, overused in the West. It's a bit like the term blessings and things like that. It's overused because it often is just replaced with love, or people think it just means love. But the term is actually a lot deeper, and it refers to our ability to make choices to be kind, compassionate, and loving. So it's love under our will. It's how much love we have the capacity to give out to the world. So it's our feelings, it's our capacity to love ourselves as well as others, and we acknowledge that our own faults and flaws as well. So it's also very personal, being compassionate to yourself, your self-love, as well as what you're putting out to the world. And again, so in Quechua language, Munai means to love, and it's a very deep, unconditional and pure love, often encompassing goodwill, care, willpower. It's used to express affection for someone, to welcome them, to show deep respect for all life and nature as well. The concept is very central to the Andean culture and spirituality. And sort of forming a pillar to one's path on becoming a keeper of the earth. So that's where it can get a little bit thrown out of balance by people just thinking it means just the word love. It's actually a much, much deeper subject. So it's pure and unconditional love. It's willpower, it's state of being more than an emotion. It's, your attitude, the respect, care, the connection to everything around you, nature, other people, just you and the universe. Practically, in Quechua terms, it kind of involves intentional actioning with love. So doing things out of love, or whether this be for yourself, for other people, for just anything, just doing things out of a love for it, or a love for who you're doing something for. So ideally, over time, we want to be refining these three aspects of ourselves and balancing them out, really. So this is, in the Andean tradition, putai, the flowering of our Inca seed. So most people have different levels of all three of these capacities, kind of bouncing around all the time. Ideally, when we start to study the Andean traditions, especially the lineages that I've studied with Joanne and through Juan and Ivan a little bit, and a few other Paqos and other sort of Andean medicine carriers, mystics, priestesses, whatever you want to call the Paqos. The goal is kind of, as a person, balance all three so that they're just in balance, so that you're not too much of any of them, and that you've got all three of them under control and balanced. And that's going to lead to a much more harmonious life and way of living when you've got these three principles balanced. Now I'm going to move on to cosmology. And again, I'm sorry, this video is going to be very theoretical, very deep knowledge type stuff, but it's the core of the Andean tradition, and it's where we need to start. So the Andean cosmology is a worldview that emphasizes interconnectedness of all things, including human, nature, divine. The belief that the cosmos is alive, the importance of the balance, of the reciprocity, a deep respect for nature, especially things like the mountains, the Apus, Pachamama, interconnectedness with just the universe in general. Seeing it as a living entity in itself, where everything is intertwined and related and is reflected in practice, like weaving, which sort of connects the natural world to the human world. The Quero people, a lot of them are farmers and weavers. And so it's very much connected, the human and nature worlds, connecting them together. Living cosmos, the idea is that the cosmos isn't static and that every entity is playing a role at all times. Nature spirits, so the big ones are the sacred mountains, the Apus, then other figures like Pachamama, Mother Earth, Mother of time, space, really central to the belief. And then there's other like Father Sky, rivers, glaciers, lakes, all of these different types of nature spirits and things. Sky and earth connection. The worldview connects the human being to both the sky and the earth, with the cosmos seen as a whole. Rituals and ceremonies, part of the sort of cosmology, and play a deep role in the cosmology of the Andean people, such as those performed for, say, death, ensuring a good harvest. These things are, they're pretty crucial for maintaining balance and honouring the cosmos. In astronomy, the celestial observation plays a big role. when it comes to sort of the calendar for agricultural purposes. As I said, a lot of care people and Andean people, they're farmers, they're weavers. They rely heavily on their crops and their llamas to have the wool to weave and all of these kinds of things. Within art and symbols, there's a lot of art and a lot of symbology in the Andean ways. And this includes like textiles, pottery, which is kind of a physical manifestation of all the cosmology beliefs. Like if I pull out my little Misha, you can see that it's got the designs within the weaving. I don't believe this is actually Cairo weaving, but yeah, their weaving is an expression of the cosmology. And the Andean mystics, I think what's most useful about the Andean mysticism worldview is the goal to not to cultivate awareness so that you can leap beyond the human experience, to reach nirvana or that sort of heaven concept, or escape the wheel of karma and karmic debts and ideas like that. I think what I love about it is that the Andean masters would say that our mission is not to release suffering, but to be joy. It's not our state of mind that matters, but first and foremost the state of our energy. Having fun, playfulness is a huge thing in the Andes. And I really like this concept that it's not about the past life, the next life. It's about this life right now and what we're doing in it. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. I'm Buddhist Nagpa, so obviously I believe in reincarnation and past lives and future lives and things like that, and karma and all of those things. I believe in them, but I do love that the Andean worldview is really about like this life, this body, today. Like, it's just really, really grounded, and I really, really like that. So, the Andean masters, they're not Buddha under the Bodhi tree contemplating life. It's the laughing Buddha, full of life, full of joy. The Andean mystics, the Paqos, believe that there's more terms than just Paqo, but I use Paqo because that's just the tradition that I've been trained in. They believe our nature is joyful, but we especially in the West, have forgotten this. And the path to remembering that we're beings of joy, and to teach, and everything that they teach kind of propels us forward to a singular end, to remember who we really are and to live as we really are, happily ever after, and to really focus just on this life, this moment, and just finding joy in life. Now, more cosmology stuff. Now we move on to the Andean Chicana, or the Inca cross. So that's this. And again, this is very central to the Andean cosmology. So typically it's symmetrical, equal arms cross with 3 steps in each of the corners and a circle or hole in the center. The design has a lot of meaning, so we're going to jump into that. So the three worlds. Each three-step tier represents one of the three realms of existence in the Andean belief system. So we have the Hanapacha, the upper world, which is celestial realms inhabited by, say, gods, such as the sun, the moon, and celestial beings. I think some Andeans would probably throw things like archangels and guardian angels up into there as well. The ones that have sort of taken on a bit of the Christianity beliefs, because there is a bit of that within a lot of South American traditions. They've kind of incorporated a little bits of Christianity into their beliefs and made that kind of work for them. So that's the upper world, the Hanapacha. Then we have the Kaipacha, middle world, which is the earthly world of human existence, the material world where we are right now. And then the Ukapacha, the lower inner world, the underworld, the inner earth. And this is inhabited in the Andean belief by spirits of the dead, ancestors, and various other spirits connected to Pachamama, connected to the earth. So each of these worlds is associated with an animal. The condor is the upper world, puma is the middle world, and the serpent is the underworld. Then the other meanings, cardinal directions. So the four main arms of the cross represent, the directions, north, south, east, west. Also the four elements, of course, earth, air, fire, water. Then we move on to the center hole, and that's kind of the fifth element, which is the central axis and is considered the axis mundi, or the cosmic axis. And this is the portal through which Paqo, spiritual practitioner, or one on a spiritual journey can transit between the different worlds. So it's kind of said to represent Cusco, the capital of the Inca Empire, and as seen as the center of the universe for the Andean people. Then it also comes up in cosmology and astronomy. The Shikana symbol embodies the harmonious balance of opposing forces, masculine, feminine, sky, earth, and represents the Southern Cross constellation, which is very important celestial guide for the Incas, or was for the Incas. And also seasons and agriculture. The 12 corners of the symbol can represent the 12 months of the year, symbolizing the agricultural cycle of sowing and harvesting and planting and things like that within the Andean communities. It's also just a powerful symbol of balance, harmony, again, can never get that one. Reciprocity and the interconnectedness of all life. It continues to be a really important spiritual and just cultural icon, and it is used a lot in modern Andean rituals, arts, textiles, and even architecture in general. So I'm going to just quickly run through the stuff that I have here. So the Quiero medicine wheel, the Chicana. So north is associated with red, the subtle body, the seer, self-sourcing, Viracocha, which is the creator god. Air and wind, spiritual healing, the hummingbird. East is green. It's associated with spirit, meditation, the sage, vision and manifesting, Inti, the father-son god, fire, and then the eagle. South is the physical body, the hero, the drama victim, Pachamama, Mother Earth, Earth Elper, physical healing, and the boa anaconda, Amaru, and that's white in colour. West is yellow in colour, and it is the breath, the luminous warrior, empowerment, Mamakila, which is the Mother Moon god, water, emotional healing, and the jaguar or puma. Then the center is the rainbow body, which is different to the Buddhist rainbow body, but I'm not going to go into that. It's associated with the Lama, transformation, Pachacuti, which is another sort of huge sort of spirit being for the Andean people, Pachacuti, Axis Mundi, and the Lama, color white. And then Andean cosmology, upper world, Hanapacha is condor, middle world, Kaipacha puma, a lower world, Ukapacha serpent, lower world, level of stone people, plant people, animal spirits, ancestors, and level and high spirits, like the highest beings, the most powerful beings in the traditions. So that would fall under beings like Pachacuti Inca, and other, I guess, extremely strong gods or goddesses. Lower world, actually no, I don't really like how this translates with the lower world stuff. Above the mountains, Apus, Father Sky, Grandmother Moon, the Great Spirit, Wanatanka, and then the Star Brothers and Sisters. And below, Earth Mother, Pachamama, Nature Kingdoms, Stone People, Animals, Plant, etc. And that's kind of when I'm doing any form of shamanic teaching, which I do core shamanic practitioner teaching. That's the medicine wheel I use, and that was just, it's a little bit different to what I just read, but it's just a slightly different translation. So you can see that there's crossovers between how the Western world's translated it and how the Andean people actually view it. So while I'm giving this talk, I'm trying to bring in the Andean Quechua terms and understanding, but then also give a bit of a broader way that the Western world is kind of understanding these things. Quickly moving on, I just want to very quickly talk about the concept of the 7 levels of humanity, of consciousness, which start at 0 and go to 7. I personally believe most of us sit between 3rd to 4th level. I think those highly developed in spiritual practices, maybe things like psychology, philosophy, probably sit more around the 4th level. So, Rinpoches, High Lamas, very, very experienced shamans, medicine people, people, with, deep philosophical knowledge, things like that. I believe they probably sit about the 4th. But I think most people bounce between level 3 and level 4. That's another really deep topic, so I'm not going to fully go into it. So level 0 is like no consciousness whatsoever. And level 7 is godlike energy, absolute pure source energy, which is, the highest possible level of consciousness within the universe. So I think most people sit, between 3 and 4. We kind of bounce in between, I think, for most people. At the moment, within the Andean traditions, there's no known level 5 or 6 healers anymore. There used to be. At the moment, there isn't. There's a prophecy that says that 6th level healers are going to come out, within the next little while. But as of today, we don't know of anyone. We know of people who have shown 6th level abilities, but they haven't been able to maintain it constantly. Level 6 is the infallible healer, the person who can heal any sickness, anything, any disease, any sickness, any ailment at any time, every time. So some people have shown that potential, but as of today, there's no one we know of that has managed to be at that level consistently all the time. Now, just quickly going to talk about the Inca seed. So it's kind of the journey of personal growth, and what we're seeking to develop is the Inca moon eye, or the Inca seed. Inca refers to the male ruler of the Inca Empire. So we can translate Inca moon muyu as seed of the king. For females, the term koyo muyu, or seed of the queen. It's not a term that's used much. The term Inca seed is just the most commonly used term when we're talking about this. So I see it as gender neutral. I don't look at male or female, I just the Inca seed. In a spiritual context, the Andean tradition, the Inca seed is referring to sort of the dormant drop of divine source energy within all of us. So it's representing everyone's divine potential. The spiritual meaning is kind of connected to house or temple of the self, with the idea of spiritual awakening and growth, and is a term that's kind of used by some traditions, seed as a metaphor for the divine potential of our lives, symbolizing, hope, potential, and the interconnectedness of all beings. The inner divine spark, so the divine source energy that lies dormant within the capable of being awakened or awakened beings. So spiritual awakening and allowing a person to grow their fullness and humanness. The house or temple of the self, in the Andean tradition, the Inca seed is the owner of our wasi, or house, and in this we're talking about our physical body as a house, and its energy is said to be connected to feeling the center of the body, which is a major energy point. I'm not going to go into the energy points, that's a whole big topic that I'm going to save for later. The capacity of I am. So integrating the energy of the Inca seed with the feeling center can stimulate sort of the energetic capacity. Quechua word meaning I am sort of represents the potential to know who you are and who you can become moving forward. It can kind of also have the symbol of potential and interconnectedness. So the seed, in more of a general spiritual sense, symbolizes the divine creator, Warakocha, and the unity of everything that exists, and the potential for growth. Represents the promise of life, both literally and spiritually, so in this world and on a spiritual level, and can also be a bit of a metaphor sort of for the divine word, similar to other spiritual traditions. The seed can be a bit of a metaphor for spiritual message or word, which can take root and then sort of flourish and grow. So that's, just a seed metaphor. The Inca seed also kind of encodes our metaphysical self and is equivalent to the spirit. At the moment we're conceived, we're created both by the DNA of our mum and dad, and the paternal side of the maternal side, that DNA. And from the energy of spirit. So you've got the mum, the dad, the maternal, paternal, and then you've also got the divine energy coming through. So you've got those three coming through. So we're a combination of the DNA of our parents and the energy of spirit. And that's kind of what our Inca seed is. As Don Juan terms it, it is the drop of the mystery, literally drop of God, however you perceive that word, or creator. I prefer that one, honestly. Drop of creator. So everything that is held in potential is within our Inca seed, ready to blossom, ready to grow, ready to spout the second web birthed, or even in utero. Now, okay, getting towards the end. Again, this is really dense information, but I just wanted to get it out there for free, because as I move on to further teachings, it's just so important to have this foundational knowledge of sort of the Andean tradition. So the inner Tawantons. Tawantons are not only sort of integral part of the Andean energy work, but also physical nature, the human nature at the most foundational levels, from physics, biology, to art, to human relationships. Essentially there's Tawantons everywhere. They are mostly represented in fours, but there are other ones. So some classic examples I'm going to give. So the 4 bases of DNA. Sorry, I'm going to actually have to read these out because that's not stuff I personally know about. Adenine, thymine, chitosine, and guanine. 4 bases of RNA: adenine, uracil, cortisone, and guanine. The 4 source carriers of physics: gluons, bosons, photons, and gravitons. 4 fundamental physics force: gravitational, electromagnetic, strong nuclear and weak nuclear forces. The 4 lobes of the brain: frontal, parietal, temporal, occipital. Okay, and now moving back into stuff that I don't have to read in depth because I know a bit more. The 4 chambers of the heart: left and right ventricles, the left and the right arteria. The 4 essential representations in mathematics, so numeral, graphical, symbolical words. 4 foundations in mathematical operations: addition, subtraction, division, multiplications. 4 elements: earth, fire, water. Yeah, there's the 5th element, but we're just going to stick to the 4s here. The 4 domains of expression: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. 4 natural stages of life: child, youth, adult, elder. So there are Tawantons, and Tawantons are just basically things that are interconnected. So mostly they come as 4s and 2s. And there's all different kinds in all different areas, such as, you know, the four seasons, the cardinal directions, the divisions of the day, stages of the moon. Then on an inner level, we have the inner Tawantons, balancing all of our energies, all of our human capacities. We have Tawantons within us, which again, so that's like balancing, and this is the one Tawanton that comes in 3, balancing our human powers, Munai, Yachai, and Yankai. Although actually a Tawanton, because Yankai can be broken down into 2 factors of Kuyai, passion, and Atiya, of measuring your personal growth in the moment. So that can be broken into 2, which then gives us 4, which forms the Tawanton. Discerning the proper timing for action and bringing your impulses under your will. That's just another for the Ati, measuring your personal power in any given moment, discerning the proper timing and action, and bringing your impulses back under your control of will. So the 3 personal powers become 4 to form a Tawanton. And then, you know, we just have other Tawantons in our lives, and that's anything that sort of comes in sort of 2s and 4s that are in relation to each other. And we can see that a lot within ourselves, within this physical world, within the natural world, within the physical natural world, within the spiritual world. There's all sorts of connections, and the Andean belief is these are all called Tawantons, and it's just the connectedness where we see all of these combinations coming in, things that are connected. Okay, so that wraps up this sort of foundation of Andean energy dynamics, cosmology, levels of human consciousness, and just kind of the worldview of the Andean people in the different lineages, in the different Andean traditions. So thank you all for listening. I know this was a really just heavy, dense, knowledge infused video, but I just needed to put this out there so I can move on to deeper teachings, so that you all have the foundational knowledge, so I don't have to explain all of this while I'm moving into deeper actual practical teachings. So thank you all for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Always happy to answer questions or refer you on to people who can answer your questions. Look, if you feel called to make a small donation, that would be greatly appreciated, but absolutely not necessary. I'm putting this out for free, but I just wanted to add that in. Yeah, if you feel called to make a small donation, mentor of mine, I'm not going to mention their name, but if they watch this, they know who they are. He always tells his students somewhere between a chocolate bar and a new car. But yeah, donation absolutely not necessary. This is just putting the knowledge out there to step into further teachings, which then I will charge for. So yeah, thank you all for listening. Hope you learnt something new today and got a bit of a better understanding of the Quechua kind of Andean, sorry, not Quechua, yeah, the Andean cosmology and foundational energies. So yeah, thank you all for listening. Have a fantastic morning, day, afternoon, evening, night, whatever time it is for you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And yeah, hopefully I'll be probably getting on to a Despacho teaching next when it comes to the Andean stuff. I'm not going to plug too much other stuff here because, again, this isn't about self-promotion, but I do have some other shamanic teachings under the way and some Buddhist stuff I'm working on. But yeah, that's all for today. Thank you very much, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Bye.